Ladies and gentlemen, I was gifted 5 subs on Twitch to watch this video about how and why Wuthering Waves has bad writing. And so I am always eager to see somebody's take about the game. I hope somebody pre-watched this and can verify that it's all right. It is by the noob Jesus, and the dislike ratio looks okay, so maybe he's cooking, or maybe he's just, based off the low number of views, maybe he's just farming WuWa haters. So we'll go ahead, we'll see what it's all about over here.
I like Wuthering Waves.
Okay, that's a nice intro.
Of all the gacha games I have played, it's probably the game with the best, well, gameplay. The only contender being Archimeds.
Okay.
That's mostly thanks to integrated strategies. The combat is fluid, the exploration is spectacular once you reach the Black Shores, and overall, the feel of the world is strangely fantastical.
I think the comparison to the game that he was showing before is like a little bit interesting, just considering that they're completely wildly different. One's a unit tower defense, and the other is like a open world action game.
While there are some issues that might become a problem in the future, as of now, it's a really good game.
Okay.
But what it has consistently struggled with is its story, and to an extent, world building. Ever since beta, it has had these problems, so once I actually caught up to the game during 2.2 and I was hearing all about how great of a story 2.2 is...
So, the problem is world building and... what did he say before?
Ever since beta, it has had these problems, so... beta, world building. Ever since with is its story, and to an extent, world building.
Okay, story and world building. Alright.
I was rather excited. While it does fail frequently when it comes to story, I could tell that the game had immense potential. With how colorful its world is, as long as you make good use of its characters, you could make interesting plot points. So, with that mindset, I started the 2.2 questline and it was... It wasn't that interesting and was honestly more of a disappointment than anything. Even so, that feeling of potential remains. In this video, I want to go over why the story of WuWa doesn't work, and how it could be better.
Okay, those are some pretty bold claims. Let's see what he has to bolster his arguments, because I've heard multiple individuals, even those that weren't fans of Wuthering Waves. I remember, I remember you guys know a CC called Sorosness, right? She had like huge critiques for like WuWa 2.0 about like how like the story for her wasn't that engaging, and then proceeded to turn it all around in 2.2 and say that 2.2 was one of the best gacha stories ever told, like ever.
To start off, WuWa, Wuthering Waves, commits a sin that surprisingly a lot of gacha games also commit. Not making use of its cast. What do I mean by that?
Okay, that's not a
read the story
that's a fair point.
Attention, it's hard to count the times when more than 2 characters are interacting outside of expositions. Basically, most character interactions in the game are only between Rover, the MC, and another side character. You rarely see genuine party dynamics, and interactions are almost exclusively one-on-one, likely by design. Let's take the 1.1 story, which was all about Jiwe and Mount Firmament. It starts off with Chongli, and the whole point of the first half is about catching up with Jinshi. Chongli helps you get into Mount Firmament, takes you to Hongjin, which is the main settlement of Mount Firmament. The two of you track Jinshi's steps, she goes over a lot of exposition, until finally, in a cave, you catch up to Jinshi to help her with Huanglong's Jiwe problem. The 3 of you group up, spend like 10 minutes together until Chongli leaves, and you do the rest of the story with just Jinshi, because Chongli has to deal with some pitiful Fraxiness. Sure, there is an explanation on why she has to leave, but that's because the writers want to separate the group, not...
Well, I mean, the focus of this is Jinshi going through her second awakening to be able to, you know, harness the power of Jiwe, and I guess the alternative that he's potentially suggesting, not saying that he's doing this, but I mean, if Changlei's just there, isn't she just a gigantic third wheel, just like watching it all happen? So she's just like sitting there like, you can do it. You got this, Jancy. I believe in you.
Out of necessity for the storytelling, instead of having Jinshi and Chongli, which are close to each other, interact on screen, we only interact with them separately. It would be fine if this was the only time that this happened. Let's go to 2.2, which was the Imperator storyline, which is the Sentinel of Renacida, same as how Jue was the Sentinel of Huanglong. This story is pretty much the exact same as 1.1. You have to find Carthea, sweet Sentinel's resonator just like Jinchi, and to do that, you have to do so with the help of Cantarella, a well-endowed mommy lady that acts as a guide, same as Chong-Li.
Yep.
While the three of you do interact here more than in 1.1, Cantarella also barely stays on screen after you meet up with Carthea, and the rest of the 2.2 questline turns into a glorified date with just Carthea.
So, I guess the complaint is that they did end up talking to each other, but then there's another complaint because they have individual dialogues afterwards to have one-on-one conversations after they all just talk to each other. I'm... Like, couldn't you just make a similar complaint that I wasn't able to talk to any of the characters one-on-one and every conversation was a group conversation if the alternative occurred? Because the complaint over here is that you individually talk to the characters to get their thoughts after you just spent a bunch of cutscenes all talking to each other. But, like, yeah, you could make the equal complaint on the other end that no conversation was one-on-one. We didn't get any individual thoughts of any unit.
Sure, the intricacies of the stories are different, but the outline is the exact same pretty much. As soon as you meet up with a 5-star resonator that you are meant to gamble for, you spend some time with them before they are ditched for the next 5-star resonator that you also have to use the lottery machine for. It doesn't feel like they are characters, they feel like products.
Sorry, let me go play a cutscene real fast.
This one has heard your decision.
You're saying Jinsi feels like a product? This is a product.
What do you think of this?
You deserve to fight like you choose.
This is what we're calling, just because there was no other limited character involved, it's a product? I mean, come on, man. If all we want to do is just show, like, individual lines of dialogue from, like, the more, like, exposition part of the quest, and, I mean, I'm just gonna do a quick preview. Does he show any of... Why do you think we didn't get a single shot of any of, like, the cinematics in his segment about Jinsi? Huh, I guess it turns out, if you want to cherry pick points, it's pretty simple, right? To get specific examples of the game in, like, its worst spots to drive that through. I'm gonna be real here. I don't, like...
Which they are, but that doesn't mean that they can't also be characters. And if you...
I don't know how anyone could come to that conclusion after seeing that cutscene with Jinsi. There's a reason why she's one of the most popular characters in the game.
If you don't like a certain character, well, it sucks to be you. I did not like Carthea. I liked Fleur-Gelis, not for a reason you're thinking of, but not Carthea. She just seemed boring to me, and I had to literally spend time with another character that was like her in a very similar storyline. So, when half of 2.2 is just Rover having an eccentric date with Carthea, I had a really strong desire to just press the skip button. Thankfully, I hate myself, so I didn't do it. But still, it was not an entertaining time. Thing is, I feel like if Cardathea spent more time with other characters, I would have liked her more. If Contraless stayed and you made an actual party of 3, a character like Cardathea would not appear as boring, because you would have another character to bounce off of.
So, she's boring because she didn't have another character to bounce off of when we got, like, multiple breakdowns of why she is the way that she is, how crazy her past was. We had the whole sequence with, like, Cadanto, where we get to see, like, the bond that she had with one of her echoes from way long ago, and how Cadanto was, like, still trying to, like, reach out for her, even after being turned into a tacit discord, because of all the memories that they shared, that were even able to, like, surpass him turning into a TD during their fight against the Darktide. That's just, that, because there wasn't another limited character there that wasn't... I'm confused.
One that is not Rover. Now, I don't have any big problems with Rover. I don't think that making Rover the Jesus of everything is automatic.
I mean, there are so many relationships that were drawn to NPCs, certainly. But I can just view that as the devs just decided to characterize people like Cardathea, etc., without forcing relationships with other playable characters. To say that they didn't interact with anybody else other than Rover is such a crazy take, because they did interact with plenty of other entities. Like, she had the whole thing with Cadanto, she had the whole thing with the Dragon of Dirge, she had the whole thing with the Threnodian, and then, like, the fusion of Imperator and the Threnodian, they had so much characterization as well. And just because there wasn't a forced interaction between her and other playable units doesn't mean that there was no... that she's, like, boring and there's no characterization at all. That's just... It seems like every argument is built on top of the idea that because they didn't talk to other playable units, they weren't, like, real characters.
Bad. You can make any character work if you are just a good enough writer. Sadly, Rover lacks personality for the most part. For one, unlike every other character, not all of Rover's lines are voiced. This creates a jarring contrast between Rover and whatever other character he's interacting with. It's immersion breaking, and it's something that's a lot of...
2.2 has some of the most voiced quest lines that in the history of the game. Like, it has some of the most voiced dialogue for Rover in literally the history of the game. It was crazy how many voice lines there were in 2.2.
A lot of fully voiced gacha games struggle with from what I've seen. Now, I think that we can all admit that Rover is still a character, not just a self-insert. He is a self-insert, but he also has traits, is what I mean. He likes money, has amnesia, was like the coolest guy ever or something, likes money, has a tendency to quip, and is the son or daughter of Mr. Krabs.
Didn't we just say that they have almost no personality? And now we're talking about all the things that give them a personality? Let me just verify that he just said Rover has no personality.
Rover lacks personality, coolest guy ever or something, likes money, has a tendency to quip, and is the son or daughter of Mr. Krabs. Cool. But because Rover gets very little dialogue and even less of that is voiced, you don't really get to connect with him. Because of this lack of charisma, a character like Cardathea, which is a modest, good girl, princess type of character, can't bounce off of Rover with good dialogue. It's...
Sorry, I just need to go play something real fast. Right about here.
frequency in her body is already...
Arbiter, despair not, for all is not lost.
That's no personality?
Bounce off of Rover with good dialogue. It's as if she's
That scene had almost no dialogue in it, and it told so much. That cinematic actually had close to no dialogue in it at all, but it still spoke so much.
throwing a ball to a cushion instead of a wall. It hurts her character, and because half the story is just her character, the entire story...
Is he a big FGO fan? What kind of content does he do? I've realized there's a lot of like VN fans. There's a lot of like VN enjoyers that always have these sort of takes about WuWa. It's almost like if there's not a mountain of dialogue for them to like read about, they need to be told everything. And if it isn't explicitly told, then they think it's like not a good story. Yeah, visual novel, not Vietnamese. Yeah, visual novel players, where like, if they're not reading a literal essay explaining to them in explicit detail every single thing that's going on, it's like not good. I've seen that take a lot of times by like visual novel players. So many times. It's kind of off-putting that like, if there's no dialogue, it almost like it just goes right over their head. That they don't register that it happened because there wasn't a mountain of dialogue explaining it. So it's just like, it's an insignificant part of the story.
starts feeling like a chore. And that's the worst part. It's fixable. If WuWa just focused more on real character interactions, the story wouldn't just be tolerable, it could be genuinely fun.
That's implying that it's not. That it's not tolerable and it's not fun.
More than the 2.2 questline, I liked the Vault Underground storyline. In it, you get called to oversee the transfer of something into the vault as a mediator. You also have Zani with you, representing the Montellis, alongside Phoebe, representing the church.
Okay.
It's not a complicated storyline. It has far less exposition than the main quest, and most importantly, you do it with a gang. I know for certain that I would dislike Phoebe if she didn't get to interact with both Rover and Zani at the same time. She would have been another Carithia. I can tell because I didn't care about her in the fishing events.
They are literally interacting with so many... It's like, bro doesn't think the NPCs are characters. NPC stands for non-playable character. And just because they're NPCs doesn't mean... Like, bro's out here... Is he just shit-talking Starbuck? Literally, Starbuck was one of the highlights of the 2.1 quest. He's just not playable, so I guess he means apps like he just phased out every single conversation that involved him. It really just seems like if it's not interactions between playable characters, it's just dog shit. Maybe I'm generalizing or simplifying his arguments too much, but that's what it seems like.
But when you allow her to interact with more than just a cushion, suddenly she's a far better character. For example, this one scene where the gang starts talking about this one painting that is covered up was pretty memorable. Due to that conversation, you learn more about Zani and Phoebe. And because Rover is just not that talkative, having an extra character around lets the writing breathe. Let's take a game like FGO. In an event, let's just say Summer 5. In it, you have over 10 playable characters, plus some other characters that aren't playable, all interacting in one event. Not main story, but event. And these characters are not all connected to each other. You have Sigurd and Brynhild, which flirt like all the time, then you have Emiya of all people alongside Elia, Rasaki, Tomoe, Senpai, and a lot more. And these characters all interact. What makes it special is that normally you would never even think of how these characters would exist in the same room. Imagine if the same happened in WuWa, where in one story you would have Jian, Jinshi, Encore, Bronze, Cantarello, and whatever other character that you can think of. Now, yes, the structure of FGO makes the happening of these interactions much more understandable. Still, it doesn't mean that they can't just make up some reason to have some characters hang out in some event.
I don't know, because they're trying to tell like a good cohesive story and then make sure it's built. Why is he comparing main story quests to a summer event, which are like usually not even canon?
Writers can do whatever they want as long as they bring entertainment. They had the chance to do that with the Somme Noir event, but for whatever reason they decided not to. Now, why? Why not? There can be a few reasons. For one, WuWa is 3D. Having these characters all animated over long events might be quite
They literally did this in the Cube event.
taxing on the dev team. FGO is fully sprite, so it can do whatever it wants with its cast much easier. Another much bigger thing is voice actors. Not only would all these characters' voice actors need to be free, but they also need to do everything within a limited time. And that's not going to the fact that each language has its own set of voice actors. I'm not a voice actor, but I could imagine that the scheduling of that might be a nightmare, and the voice actors would have to record their lines possibly years in advance. Again, each version of the game is a little over a month long, which just doesn't give a lot of time for a well thought out story. The dialogue in the game, while not as cringe as something like Genshin, is still rather weird at times. This is more of a nitpick honestly, and something I just want to get out of the way. Whenever characters talk, it feels awkward, and it's something that is present
Yeah, maybe
for
a bit in
most of the game.
1.0.
I don't know if it's got something to do with the voice acting,
I don't think you can say this from like 1.3 onward though.
the 3D models, or the feel of the world, but it's hard to get immersed into the story. Not only that, but like 60% of the dialogue is only exposition.
Yeah, I remember people were talking shit about Rover being called the Astral Modulator. I'm gonna be real, that's a pretty fucking badass name. I think most people like the term Astral Modulator now. It sounds pretty fucking cool.
I like world building, but not like that. Maybe it's because the dialogue is cringe and can just feel that cringe better in a language that can speak, but I don't know.
I mean, I guess the thing is I think his complaints are valid for 1.0 of the game, but to be going around and making broad generalizations about the entire game based off its 1.0 story is like, move on. Like, there are more updates, 1.0 is like a minority part of the game, and like, are we still going to complain about it?
Something is wrong with it, and I genuinely can't tell what. It's something that Genshin struggled with back when I played that game, but in a game like Girls Frontline 2, which has Japanese voices, I don't feel the same thing. Again, more of a nitpick.
Probably because you don't understand Japanese.
But it's how I feel. Going back to the focus that WuWa puts on one-on-one interactions, there is one positive about it: the companion quests. Not all of them are great, but the best parts of WuWa are in these stories. Because they are companion quests, you don't get as much exposition and don't need to expect more, nor should you. They're focused on the companion character, and that's fine, because that's exactly what they're meant to do. For example, 2.2 is about the lore of Renesita, Imperator, sort of false religion, and a few other things, all told through two different dates. Gion's, Encore's, Contorilla's, and Camellia's questlines are the best stories that WuWa has to offer, especially Camellia's questline. I really like that one. And again, they're all good because they're just about the characters that you're interacting with and nothing more.
Okay.
Yes, you get some lore and world building from them, but nowhere near as much exposition. Sure, some of them are stinkers, like Judges, but not all. At the end of the day though, they don't save WuWa from having a mediocre to boring story. The game itself has not managed to feel like anything over a 5 out of 10.
I'm wondering why there wasn't a single bit of footage shown about 2.0. Even if we wanted to go with the whole, the characters never interacted with each other, wasn't there literally a scene in 2.0 where it's like Rover and Carlotta dancing, with Brant being the like MC, and then like Rosia like also being a part of it? So it was like literally 3 playable characters and Rover in like that one like mock play skit act scene. And then even the entire climax of version 2.0 is literally Carlotta, Rover, and Rosia with Brant like in the background fighting Frivola. It's like, bro, I mean, surely, what? If we're making critiques hyper-analyzing one of the oldest versions of the game, and then even going so far as to, like, draw these relationships to, like, 2.2, when, like, there's so much characterization in 2.2, it's actually crazy. Oh, brother, man. Oh boy. The argument literally is, if it's not a playable character, then it's like the interaction never happened.
Sure, something like Camellia's questline, I could see being an 8 or even 9 out of 10.
Like, the only reason why Cantarella is a part of the 2.2 quest is because Cantarella used to be the Blessed Maiden. She used to be the Sentinel's Resonator. And for Cartithia to have any interaction at all with any of the other units would have greatly diminished the impact of her story. It would have greatly diminished the impact of her and her personal story and, like, the overall Rinasida plotline as a whole. It would have fucking done terrible fucking damage to it. Because a huge part about it is her being locked into a tower and fighting the Threnodian the entire time.
But the overall experience has been stuck at 5 out of 10 or below, which is a shame. A few ways that you could improve the overall experience is to...
It would bloat the story, true. Hey, yeah, let's just make the story 8 hours long and make everybody talk to each other and make the overall story experience a complete pile of... Oh, wait, that's HSR, my bad. Yeah, maybe let's not do that.
Make sure that Rover is voiced more often and giving him more lines. That in it...
He literally has some of the most lines ever. He has so many lines in the most recent patches, it's crazy. It's like we're over here asking for suggestions that have already been implemented into the game.
Itself would make the writing of the game much more competent. You would also have to get rid of the plastic feel that a lot of characters have during the main story.
They already did. This is literally, you're referencing 1.0, talking about everything wrong that needs to be fixed, and they already did it.
Don't advertise them. Making them likable and interesting is a far better advertisement than just shoving them into story scenes for exposure. To make them better, the best solution would be to have these gacha characters interact with other gacha characters, like...
It's like this guy's supposed to be, like, up to date, but is still, like, regurgitating critiques for 1.0 that have already been addressed.
I don't know, Alto conversing with Chong-Li, or Encore playing with Rosia.
What reason would they have? First, you don't just want to create an arbitrary reason for these characters to talk to each other. Like... People would rather have there be a story reason for these characters to interact, not because you just think it's cool.
You don't have to get rid of Rover for these interactions to happen. You would just have to add characters. And also, don't forget about characters. Just because Jinshi has gotten a full question mark story, doesn't mean that you can't use her in a future story after the end of her banner. I might not care about a character like Yin Lin now, but if in the future she gets to be a fun character, I might pull for her.
Jinxie literally got a second story in version 1.2 during the festival. Every 1.0 character got some extra story stuff during 1.2 in the festival.
Now, this is more something just for me and not an advice, but I think that we need more cool characters. Or any other kind of characters, really.
Yeah, they have Geshu Lin. That guy's like the definition of this cool that you're talking about.
The only cool character we have is Kalkaro, and he doesn't even appear in the story. I like...
But we're just not going to talk about Geshu Lin or Scar, who both actually literally appear in the story.
Cuties. I like sexy woman. I get tired when every character is a cute or sexy woman. Give me some like super badass edgelord.
I'm gonna crash out. We're just gonna pretend this wasn't in the launch trailer of the game.
As doctor, you failed to rescue. As warrior, you failed to defend.
Release date 1 year ago.
Ask yourself this, General Gian. Do you truly deserve your title? Listen! How will you answer their dying pleas?
Don't leave me here.
Look! Do you have an end for this eternal carnage?
Save me. Help.
You and I are no
And then fuck it, we'll just play this part too.
Through the darkest of nights, my path remains true!
Yeah, it's pretty badass to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just the odd one out. That seemed pretty badass to me, bro. I guess this is the thing, right? I don't want to be consistently known as the guy that when somebody critiques the story, I say that they didn't play the game. But I feel like I brought up enough examples, like enough receipts in this conversation to kind of just verify that I really don't think this guy played a lot of the game. It's a trailer, not in a game. Yeah, Geshu Lin was in the 1.0 story, but clearly you didn't play it either.
Jester, Bronte's not schizo enough. Give me someone scary. Just have some variety. Despite what people tell you, other kinds of characters can sell. People like to say that husbandos don't sell, but that's not entirely true. If they aren't selling, there's a problem other than them being male. More than waifus, I want to play as cool characters. So, if a character is super awesome and full of it,
Bro has the Gian trailer in his footage and then just omits Geshu Lin. This is the Gian showcase.
I'm going to most likely roll more for that kind of character over another sexy woman. And I don't even like dudes, not in the same way that I like women. FGO is one of the most successful gachas ever, and its arguably most successful banner was Oberon, which is
Oh wait, is there another FGO thing in here? Okay, I can't wait for this one.
arguably most successful banner was Oberon. Successful gacha. I don't even like dudes, not in the same way that I like women. FGO is one of the most successful gachas ever.
I see why Nolly Boy linked this vid. Every time he sees somebody not call FGO a steaming pile of shit, I think he just immediately comes. They didn't call FGO trash! Yes!
And its arguably most successful banner was Oberon, which is a dude. Now, he was and still is one of the most important characters gameplay-wise, but more than that, I think people rolled for him because he was such a good character. He was the most successful release of that time, even though every other character was incredibly popular, and also a waifu. Units like Bob-on Sith and Morgan have become some of the most popular female characters of FGO, and they couldn't reach the level of Oberon. Point is, right?
Wasn't Oberon overpowered? Yes, he is. Oh, okay, so we just decided to use one of the most broken characters in the history of the game as an example.
Variety can help not only with sales, but also with story. And the larger point is to
Okay, I'm done with this video. We played it pretty much to the end. I don't really know what just happened with this one. This video might be filled with some of the most cherry-picked examples of both, like, B-roll of what's going on. It's almost like we intentionally chose the most boring part of every single quest to show and try to, like, create and drive this whole argument that if it isn't between two playable characters, nothing matters. We've completely discounted the impact of an NPC because I guess that if they're an NPC, they don't mean anything at all. Interactions like Kadanto, the Dragon of Dirge, Starbuck, The old man, right? Literally, the quest is literally called The Old Man and the Whale, and we don't give a shit about either of them because there were no other playable characters there. It's like, I don't know. And then one of the suggestions is, hey, wouldn't it just be neat if these two characters talk to each other? Sure, but I'd imagine you'd want a reason for it. And if you're writing your story just to have characters interact with each other, I'm certain that's going to have an impact on the type of story you want to actually tell. And believe me, I don't think 2.2 would have been better by having a third playable character just in there for fun. But I guess he's saying it would have been awesome because he just wants to see all of his favorite characters talking to each other. I don't know, brother. I don't know about this one. This, to me, he did have a couple of valid points when it came to, like, the early 1.0 stuff, but to be taking the 1.0 story and the critiques of it and unilaterally applying it to the entire story as if those problems didn't get fixed, it's just stinky. It just seems a little bit stinky. I don't even know what to say at this point. So, yeah, I guess that'll be that one. Thank you for, I guess, the 5 subs to watch this video, but I kind of wish I didn't. And I think we accurately explained why. Let me know what you all think. Peace.